This right here is a 2018 Audi S5, and that right there is my subscriber Hayden, who drove all the way from Utah in his Stage 2 highly modified S5 to give me the opportunity to take $8,000 and transform his already highly modified S5 into an absolute Stage 2 Plus E85 monster. Hayden, my man, thanks for making it all the way to Seattle, dude. You're a beast for driving 14 hours all the way here. How was the drive?
Honestly, it was really nice.
Tell me a little bit about your car, how you got it, how old you are, and what you've done to it so far.
Yeah, so this is my 2018 Audi S5. The truth is, my dad helped me a bit. He bought me a Subaru Outback for my 16th birthday. I sold it as soon as I got it and used money from my job to pay the difference to get a used Audi S5. And I think it's the best decision I've ever made. It's so much fun.
And what do you currently have done to it so far with modifications?
Now, I have a intake and downpipe and then a Stage 2 tune from Integrated Engineering. I have a lot of cosmetic stuff done to it though. I got an entire RS5 bodywork, front and back. Got rotiform wheels, fat wheels. They're 20x9, 285 tires on there. I smoked the lights. I got some carbon fiber mirrors. Those are pretty awesome. I wrapped this with like a little sparkly thing to give the black a little bit of contrast. I have a duck bill from Carbon Imports, carbon fiber. It's pretty awesome. Then I smoked the taillights as well. Threw on an Alcantara airbag cover and an Alcantara shift knob because I have an Alcantara carbon wheel coming. It's not here yet, but it's gonna match really good when it comes.
Nice, man. I really dig your tasteful modifications you've done with the S5 here.
Thank you.
Honestly, man, if I was 16 years old and I had this car, I'd be pretty dang proud of it. So props to you on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Give me some of those turbo noises, my man.
Some more turbo noises, bud.
Baby, this thing sounds awesome.
Sounds
great. This is just with the downpipe stock exhaust,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna change that and hopefully get a little bit more out of it, because we definitely want more turbo noise.
Yeah.
And we definitely want more exhaust, right?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Let's get it.
Now that you guys know all about this amazing S5, let's jump into my garage and let me show you guys the parts that we'll be installing. First up is this AWE exhaust for the B9 S5. It's not just a beautiful piece of kit, it's going to open up the exhaust considerably more, giving this S5 a much needed noise and tone correction. Everything is included in this kit, from exhaust clamps to larger exhaust tips. Lastly, it should give us a little bit more of a turbo spool noise, which I'm sure most of you guys watching crave as well. Speaking of the turbo, this is Integrated Engineering's FDS intercooler for the B9 platform. It is the best option on the market for stock and hybrid turbo cooling purposes. We are going to remove the tiny inferior stock intercooler, install this massive cooling product to keep those intake air temps in check. To make a little bit more torque on the 85, we'll be installing this high pressure fuel pump kit, also from Integrated Engineering. Upgrading the piston to a much larger diameter will give the fueling system more headroom, meaning more mid-range torque and horsepower being enabled, which is approximately around 25 wheel torque, putting us into the Stage 2 Plus category. We'll also be installing this Bluetooth sensor from Fuelit as well to be able to monitor the ethanol content at all times. Now, Hayden already has a P34 intake from 034 on his car, but what's really limiting the turbo from breathing more air is the OEM turbo inlet. 034 provides this much larger turbo inlet to give the turbo as much breathing room as it possibly could need. Now, to eliminate drivetrain slop and improve the power transfer, we have the 034 Motorsport Street Density engine mounts. At this point, I use them on every Audi I touch. They eliminate a future failure point by replacing the OEM prone to failure engine mounts that end up leaking fluid all over the place with a solid 65 durometer rubber. They are direct OEM-like drop-in, making them the best upgrade you can do. And since we're already be in there, we might as well pair up those stiffer engine mounts with 034's ZF8 billet transmission insert and a stiffer transmission mount, which will all result in crisper and more direct shifts. To complete that $8,000 in modifications goal, we'll be switching from Integrated Engineering's tuning to 034 Motorsports tuning for the B9 E8839 platform to compare the difference on the street from a performance and a drivability aspect. So make sure you watch all the way until the end to find out what we managed with the Draggy. But now, let's get into installing all of these parts.
Now that we have the S5 in the driveway, we got to get it up on jack stands and get these new engine mounts in. Let's get to it.
I'm going to begin by removing the front rims and the front bumper to gain access to everything we need. Using this engine mount stand will be essential to support the engine from the top to remove the engine mounts. Now, don't forget to disconnect the battery as well, just in case. I can now remove the engine bolts, securing the engine mounts to the engine brackets from both sides. The only thing holding us back now is the intake, which is very easy to remove with just one clamp. With the engine supported up in the air and the subframe lowered, I now have all the space in the world to remove the 10mm triple square bolts, and the engine mounts come right out, with definitely some interesting damage.
But it doesn't matter how trash these mounts are because they're going straight in trash. We have our 034 upgraded mounts going in. So let's install them.
Now I just need to make sure I torque the engine mount bolts to 90mm as well as the engine mount bracket bolts to 55mm. And now I can lower the engine into the final position, and this completes day one.
Well, I got my dad fuel. We got the S5 in the garage. Now we got to keep going. We got 36 hours left on the clock. So let's keep installing those modifications, starting with the intercooler first.
The OEM intercooler is very easy to remove just by loosening these two charge clamps.
Look at that small boy. Get out of here. And here's our big bad black intercooler from Integrated Engineering. This thing is definitely going to give us all the cooling that we need for the stock turbo. Keep our intake air test in check. I mean, looking at that small one right there. That belongs in the trash. This is what should have came from the factory, and this is what is going to help us make more power, baby.
The IE intercooler is secured by 2 bolts up top which thread into the radiator housing. Just need to make sure that the charge pipe clamps are tight to eliminate any boost leaks.
Dude, I've actually gotten less girls since I bought this thing.
But you've gotten more guys. Ah! It's because no one cares about Audis more than the boys do. And now with this Integrated Engineering FDS intercooler installed, we could actually move on to some of the fueling modifications. Here's our pump. And here's the piston right inside here, and that's what we're gonna upgrade. Yeah, baby. So we got the high pressure fuel pump here in the vise, and what we're gonna use is Integrated Engineering's tool to crack this collar open, giving us the ability to remove it, and then therefore change out the piston that's right here. There we go, nice. Before we install our high pressure fuel pump housing, we're gonna cut the fuel line here and install our fuel Bluetooth gauge. This is gonna give us the ability to read the ethanol content at all times and measure it and know what it is exactly, and make sure that we have the right ethanol content in our gas tank. Now the install is actually pretty dang easy. Now that we have our fuel line connections on, we're gonna get a placement here. I think it's gonna look pretty dang good, just like that. Well, now we have our cooling complete, we have our high pressure fuel pump piston installed, we have our fuel Bluetooth gauge installed as well, meaning we can finally move on to the biggest part of this build. That is the exhaust. So we're gonna head over to our self-service garage over in Tacoma, Washington, and let's get it. Now, we got 4 hours or even less than that to install this exhaust system and a couple more things under the car. So let's get right to it. Now, to get this exhaust off on these B9s, you gotta take these six bolts off, and there's 3 on each side, and it's basically a Y that goes out into both sides of the exhaust. But since the downpipe is really hot and I don't wanna burn my fingers off and my hands, we're gonna start from the back, lower the exhaust first, and then work our way backwards. So let's get the car up in the air and get this old OEM exhaust out of here. We got OEM mufflers, OEM center resonator, looking at the baby resonators here, and of course we have the trans mount, and of course we have the transmission mount right here that we're gonna be actually taking off to install 034's stiffer transmission mount, as well as 034's transmission insert to make sure that our shifts are very, very crisp. But now we gotta rip this OEM exhaust out of here and install our AWE. Let's get to it.
I'm gonna start by removing all the heat shielding and the tunnel brace to give us access. I also loosened the exhaust clamps to be able to remove the OEM exhaust in separate pieces, which would make it much easier.
Just to show you guys the mount that we're gonna be upgrading. Here's the OEM one, and you can see all of that absolute movement in it, and that's what it is. I mean, it's an OEM mount. It's supposed to take all the beating. However, this stiffer 034 mount is gonna definitely improve our shifts and stiffen up this entire mount. These parts is what helped my SQ5 get to the nines. So if you have an Audi, Volkswagen, BMW, head to 034motorsport.com and get yourself something, and maybe you might run a 9-second quarter mile. What do we need? Lube. Ooh, baby.
Lube Master Q.
Planet Fitness, bro. Beautiful 034 insert. Going in.
There really is.
This AWE exhaust will definitely sound amazing, so keep watching all the way until the end to find out how this S5 is going to sound like. I'm going to go a little backwards here and install the X pipe first. Then the mid muffler section connects into that, which leads us into the rear mufflers. I approximately aligned the exhaust where it's supposed to be, and now we can lower the S5 and get to removing the bolts to secure the K&N Performance downpipe to the mid pipes themselves. There's one more 10mm triple square, and the OEM mid pipes come right out. And of course the AWE mid pipes slide right back up and reconnect to the downpipe itself. And just like that, our entire exhaust system is installed.
Now, in every single one of my tuned B9, S4, S5, or SQ5s I've ever touched, I always switch from 0W20 to 5W40 with liquid moly. That's gonna provide more lubrication for every single one of those engines, make sure that these engines run happy. And we wanna make sure that Hayden's car runs really well and stays lubricated, so this is what we're gonna be putting in it. And you could also add spare oil right here, and that's gonna keep everything even more lubricated, and you could always have spare oil in your engine. Performance filter, plus 20 horsepower.
Yeah.
Well, we got the exhaust installed. All we have left are the exhaust tips to put on, but before we do that, I wanna hear what the car sounds like. And what do you think?
Dude, I think it's gonna sound so good. I think it's gonna sound so good.
Where are your keys? What do you mean? Are they not in the car?
They might be in the car.
Start it up. Do this thing more. We got the S5 lined up next to the SQ5. I mean, those guys are off, but we want to hear what this sounds like. So give me some revs, Hayden. That is clean sounding. That is clean. Give me some crackles. This S5 sounds crazy. This is exactly what we needed, right, Hayden? Rate it like out of 10. What would you rate it? On noise and on
The
noise.
sound level's perfect. It's just to the point where it's not like everyone really hates you. They're gonna hate you a little bit, but not all the way.
And how do you like the exhaust tone itself?
The tone's good. I like the tone.
Dude, I'm with that. Oh, my ears.
Dude,
Oh, that's loud. Oh. Comment down below which one sounds better. What do you guys think? Leave a comment. Love to hear everyone's opinions on which generation sounds best.
We got a mean lineup here, boys.
We got a couple more things that we need to finish up with this S5, and then we'll tune it, take it out, and see what we can run in the draggy. I got the exhaust installed, but now it's Hayden's turn to install his own exhaust tips.
I love flesh. Oh, that looks good.
Oh, you like?
Oh, Dave,
Oh, you
this might be the best looking exhaust thing I've ever seen.
Bro, you're elegant. Good, good, good. Now let's measure this side, make sure it's symmetrical.
The last thing that we have on the list here is this 034 turbo inlet, and we're gonna rip this OEM one out before we put 85 in the car and go take it on the spin and find out how quick of a quarter mile we can actually cut in this car. This is gonna definitely open up the OEM turbo and help it breathe much better. The other great thing about it is if we ever wanna go stage 3, all you have to do is just swap this adapter and bam, you're good to go with the bigger turbo. The stock turbo having a 53mm inlet, so 034 makes it very easy, bolt-on solution. All you have to do is rip the OEM one off, put this one on, and you're good to go. I got the turbo inlet out, very awesome. Bottom bolt came out perfectly, and I tried literally everything. And just as a comparison to you guys to show you the big difference between the OEM one and the 034 one, the OEM one fits almost all the way into the 034 one. So this is definitely gonna help the turbo breathe a lot better and bring all that air in from that P34 intake into the turbo, which should help with mile an hour. People argue about it all the time, but clearly bigger is better, and I'm here to prove it. And unlock some major horsepower thanks to the ethanol. And for those of you wondering, yes, you could run ethanol very safely in these cars without any issues. And I would only suggest switching between ethanol and pump gas every 3 to 4 months or so. An individual, comfort, auto, dynamic only. All right, give me a pull here. Ooh, that feels nice. Oh yeah, bro. That feels nice.
It feels faster. Feels faster.
That's that ethanol, baby, that corn. So Hayden, from the passenger seat, what are your thoughts?
Dude, it just feels like it's got more like available torque. It feels like it just pulls harder. It's easier to get to speed and stuff.
How would you say it feels in the corners now?
The corner, I think it might be the driver, but we can corner really quick. Like really, really quick and just fly out of the corner. It's insane.
Most importantly, how do you like the exhaust and the turbo inlet for more turbo noise and definitely the exhaust tone?
It sounds so good. I'm like still just like freaking out. It's insane. Oh, man, that's fast. Wow.
Much better.
That hooked up a lot better.
Hooked up a lot better, but that was uphill, so all right. 3.5 seconds, 0 to 60 with 2 guys in the car, I think is very impressive for a sedan. I mean, not a lot of cars on the road can cut that full weight with a passenger.
Dude, it sounds so good. 11. I actually could not imagine it sounding any better.
Now, Hayden, you actually ran ethanol before, but at Park City, Utah, you're up at 7,000 DA, is that correct?
About, yeah.
Man, that's gonna cut some crazy performance off your time, over half a second in the quarter mile. But now that you're almost basically at sea level with 6,000 less DA, what would you say the difference is with ethanol for you?
Dude, it just feels like it just pulls harder. That's it. It just feels stronger.
And that's most likely the better air and colder air density down here where we are. Not even colder, but overall just closer to sea level. Yeah. So less DA equals what?
More performance.
Nuh-uh, that's wrong.
Faster, more torque.
Nope, you're wrong again.
Colder air.
More power, baby! And before we do anything else, let's do a quick draggy. Even though it's 1600 DA, let's see if there's any difference at all.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
That launch felt very hard.
Very tough. Oh my goodness. Same, so basically right there with the same 0 to 60 of 3.5, so no difference in the 0 to 60, at least on the first launch. Right about the same, but I don't know why that felt really hard on that, like as it went off. And the only difference that I think, in my opinion at least, I don't know about you, Hayden, but it just seemed like that initial, there was more torque off the line.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. It felt like the initial punch was just much harder.
All right, now we have a satellite bar. Let's try that again. 0.43. Don't pay attention to the minor ups and downs because that really does not matter. But the 0 to 60 has basically remained exactly the same. The only thing that's really different is that initial punch off the line. It seems like it's just making more boost off the line, and it just feels like it's pulling stronger. Passenger side seat, what are your thoughts?
Only difference I'm feeling is just right off the line, it just pulls. It feels like almost double as hard. Just like it just smacks you, like it almost hurts. But then after that, it feels the same to me. Burbles sound so much better. They don't feel as forced. That's it.
Apart from that, though, honestly, I have never been able to compare these both tunes next to each other on the stock turbo. They both feel just as well refined. On the EC side of things, it seems like they're both making the same exact power and the performance is the same, but the only thing that changed, like we said, like Hayden said, was the launch, and that's really about it. Yeah. It just feels smoother. And to be honest, those are just 034's TCU refinements. Apart from that, feels very similar on the stock turbo.
Oh yeah.
Let's get him in the driver's seat and see what he thinks about the drivability. Oh my goodness. E85 is really the biggest difference here, but to me, all that really is the difference between the tunes is just the TCU refinement. Just seems like it hits harder.
It punches so much harder right at the beginning. That's what
like that down low torque, right? Yeah. Interesting. Yo, wow. That puts your stomach in the seat. Well, this B9 S5 has been absolutely transformed with the $8,000 of mods that we've installed into it. I'm sure Hayden is gonna absolutely love his car, and I know he's gonna be back for part 2 as we go from 500 to nearly 750 horsepower, 0 to 4 motorsport, and a hybrid turbo. The next one is the best one. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys soon.